Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to Popternative. This is the talk show and podcast where we have digital discussions, worlds of TV, film, everything really depending on the guests who talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. You'll recognize my guests from some cool shows, including Van Helsing on Sci-Fi and Charmed as well. Heather Doerksen is with us. Heather, welcome to Popternative.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to chat with you. I mean, over the years, Van Helsing on Sci-Fi has just kind of gotten bigger and bigger in terms of like the fan base of it. And I feel like there's a lot of things that play of why the show is so popular. For you specifically kind of working on this show for this recent season, what do you think is hitting stride with the audience with Van Helsing?
I think that Van Helsing not only, includes all the horror stuff that horror fans love, the jump scares and, all the dark gore, but it also includes character development. And so you get to see these characters from day one and how they develop over time and where they go and where they turn and, when they turn back and, these sorts of things. So I think it has depth to
Absolutely. Yeah, there is a lot going on in the show. Did you realize that, like, when you kind of signed on and you're reading the scripts, that it is packed? Like, there's a lot going on in Van Helsing?
Yeah, I mean, when I auditioned for it, it was just for the mother of the sisterhood, and so I came in with that gravitas that the mother would have of all of the sisterhood of the vampires. So, yeah, definitely, it has meat to it.
Absolutely. For you as a storyteller and an actor, when did that all start for you? I mean, was there kind of some genre or some kind of TV or film that growing up that you were watching that really drew you towards this profession, Heather?
Well, it definitely was musical theater. So it was musicals, and it would have been like kind of old Hollywood musicals. So Fred Astaire, Judy Garland, those sorts of things. And I think it was those three performing arts that drew me to it in the first place. And then, I pretty quickly learned that my singing voice, although I can carry a tune, is not Broadway worthy. So then I just kind of focused more on the acting version of it.
It's interesting too, because a lot of people in the entertainment industry, Heather, are basically working, like wearing many hats, so to speak. They're acting, but they're also like going behind the camera and they're directing and they're writing and everything. Obviously, you're focusing on acting. We're talking about your acting at Van Helsing on Sci-Fi, which is amazing. But there's I'm sure those kind of speculations and wonder about, writing and directing and producing. Like, what's that all like for you? Like, do you see yourself gravitating towards that as well, or is it mainly acting for you?
No, I mean, when I went to university and I did my degree, we had to take breadth courses. And some of the most interesting ones I took were story structure and directing, where you had to direct a show. So I did do some directing in live theater, and I've always wanted to do it in film. I just haven't kind of got there yet. But I think when life kind of opens up, then I'll have a little bit more time to direct my energy to directing. There you go.
No, absolutely. It's interesting too, because you were also part of the reboot or reimagination. I feel like they like calling it a reimagination, like the new Charmed. You were on that show as well.
Yes.
That's always interesting when they kind of bring something back from time. And I guess, with Van Helsing, there was the Hugh Jackman movie and everything, but you bring the familiarity and the nostalgia, you bring it back. So what's that like for you being an actor coming into like the reboot of a popular series? I'm just curious, that mindset for you.
I know. You have to treat it as its own standalone thing because you're entering into the family of Charmed CW, what they're doing right now. And so the world that they're creating, although it is based on the original, which I loved, it has its own tone and its own flavor. And so you can't, although I think people like to compare it, and it is based on it, so why wouldn't you compare it? It is its own thing, its own entity. So I just had to step right into that and be like, this is what this is, and let's embrace it and run with it.
It interests me, like getting back to Van Helsing, it interests me that you say about like the horror components of it and how we love horror. And you mentioned like the gore and the jump scares. But I find it interesting. I want to kind of pick your brain on this a little bit about the horror industry these days. I mean, like it or not, like whether people are a fan of watching or not, because there's a lot of people that I've interviewed that are in horror movies, but they can't watch horror movies. Like they're too afraid, right? That's a thing. Um, are you noticing that it's becoming a very popular genre because you don't just need that like traditional jump scare and gore? Like there's many other like people are scary, right? Like the society is scary. You don't need the traditional factors to come into play with a good horror movie these days.
It doesn't necessarily have to be like a slasher film, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's these other versions of horror that can be more subversive. Like
Yeah.
Get Out is just this incredible piece that was just so under the surface. And yet, like every scene, you're like, what is going on? It's so creepy. And so I think, yeah, the horror genre is going, you can go so big with it, or you can go like so under the surface and make a real commentary on society. So I think it's got a lot of room to maneuver around these days.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit about, the character that you play in Van Helsing and the growth and, this season there's a lot going on and everything, but what's it like kind of stepping in the shoes of that character, Heather?
Michaela, initially, when she came out last season, she'd been locked in a tomb for eons,
Mhm.
and she was released with the magic spell. And she came out, and then she ultimately, at the end of the season, gets vanquished, and so she is dead. And I, Heather, thought that I was dead and that Michaela was no more, like really dead, like decapitated and heart and all the things.
Dead.
Dead,
Dead.
dead. Bye. See you later.
Dead.
So then John, John Walker phones me and he's like, hey, Heather, I'm just curious what you might think about bringing Michaela back and shooting it in Slovakia. And I'm like, what? He's like, it's our dream for the final season to shoot like a whole flashback narrative in Slovakia. And would you be game for that? And I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, heck yeah. So they rewrote her in. I did not know where they were going to go with her. And then when I saw the script, yeah, like they really went dark, deep dark with Michaela. She is like the reason the Dark One turns
But did
into
you actually
Dracula.
was it actually like in Slovakia?
Yes, yes,
So
we
you
flew to Slovakia and
where
we
was it
filmed.
shot? In Bratislava?
Yeah, Bratislava, it
Yeah.
was shot, and then the castles surrounding that area, and then Orava, which is not. It's a little
So
further than Bratislava.
what was it like?
Oh, it was really amazing because on the days that I wasn't working, and I was working a lot, so and had to learn lots of Latin and stuff, but I forced myself to get out and see the city, and it was great. It was just full of this palpable history, and going to the museums and just I don't know, immersing myself into it as much as I could was really beautiful. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, traveling is incredible. It's just so we can't do it right now, but
No.
I'm really glad I had that experience right before pandemic time shut it all down.
It's an interesting time right now for storytellers and actors. We were talking before we started about how, the virtual press junket, like on Zoom, like what we're doing is kind of becoming the norm and everything. I mean, it's interesting because there's some things that are shooting right now that are going back to work, but there's a lot of things that can't, right? But like, have you thought about what it's gonna be like when everything most people are vaccinated and it goes back to normal? Like it's been such a long time, right? Like what's it gonna be like going back to it?
Just madness, madness. Everyone's shooting everything everywhere, all over the
I think
place.
it's gonna be crazy. I think there's gonna be a lot of projects, and I think there's a lot of people that are available now to do press and everything. But I think it's gonna be like non-existent for a while because everyone's gonna be working project after project. And do you see yourself also as like when everything opens up? Are you like talking to everyone, like your agent manager, be like, "Hey, let's do as much work as possible"? Does that mindset happen as well?
Well, I mean, right now we're doing a lot of self-tapes, us
Yeah.
actors. So it's like there are projects available. And it is gung ho as you want it to be. But yeah, once it opens up, it'll just be, yeah, just throw me out there. Get me into whatever and I will work. Like, I'm just been grateful for the the work. Charmed was my first project back since lockdown, or since pandemic life
Yeah,
started. It was my first on-screen stuff. I'd just done voice prior, so
absolutely.
it
And
was
what's that? What was that kind of transformation like? Like going from the voice stuff to the acting.
yeah, to on-screen stuff. Well, voice, you're just by yourself in a little booth, and there's a technician, a piece of glass. So it's it's very solitary and it's very COVID friendly. And then on set, it's everybody getting tests all the time, and everybody wearing their masks and their shield, and kind of still staying pretty isolated from each other. But it was weird. I got to set and I was like, I don't even know how to talk to people right now. Like, I don't know. I feel very awkward doing small talk. What do we talk about? The weather? Like,
Yeah.
what do we talk about? So I was in a weird state, but you get it back eventually. You just have to talk to people. It's
Yeah, no, absolutely.
a weird thing.
It is really weird. And, I know that there was a lot of shows and movies out there that they were like delayed because of COVID, right? Like they were like filming and that seemed to be kind of like all the momentum was gone, starting scratch and everything. And think about it too, right? When you have like shows and movies that have kids in it, like kid actors, right?
Yeah.
And you go like 4 or 5 months later, right? Like after the pause, you go back to set. I mean,
Oh,
growth spurts happen,
they're
right?
grown up. Their voices changed. Uh-oh.
That's a thing. I've been talking to a lot of people. That's happened.
Dub in a new voice for that one. Well, I know that Charmed had to stop before they finished the season, so they had to finish season 4 at the beginning of season what? Sorry, they had to finish season 2 at the beginning of season 3, which they're airing right now. And
Yeah.
Van Helsing was paused after our Slovakia filming was
Mhm.
done. It was just like it ended, and then they had to get back to it in June.
When
So
it's work is work. I mean, like I know you do a lot of self tapes and everything, and you want to work as much as you can. But were you hoping that you were gonna like? I mean, Charmed and Van Helsing. One can make an argument they are a little similar in terms of like the fantasy aspect things, right? But like they're different shows. Were you hoping that your career was gonna be, like I said, work is work, but like working on a variety of different projects, Heather? I mean, that's the goal and dream too, right?
yeah, I like to do a whole bunch of different things and not necessarily get pigeonholed into anything. I feel like different casting directors will bring me in for different things. One views me as like definitely the villain. One of them brings me in for the best friend. One brings me in for mom roles, really warm mothers. And so, the hallmarks, I do the hallmarks and I do the sci-fi, but I love the
I
sci-fi.
love how you just said I do the hallmarks. Like the
Hallmark
hallmarks are popular, they're awesome, and it's
is
like
awesome.
you don't throw them on the side. It's hallmark.
You do the hallmarks. Yeah, you do. You don't do the hallmarks. You do the
The
hallmarks.
hallmark.
Um, Yeah, totally. Where like I loved doing that with Lacey Chabert. She's just the best. And then doing the sci-fi stuff is just you can kind of go really big and really explore these crazy things that you wouldn't if you were just playing a normal human being. If you're like a celestial being from the sky, you can really take it somewhere.
Is the scale like? Will it blow? Because like Van Helsing, it just looks so good, right? Like it's such a big scale. Is it like this like being on set and everything? Will it surprise people? Like, or is it as big scale like on set as it appears on TV? Because sometimes a lot of effects and everything you go in, and people are like, yeah, I just do my lines and I run, and then in the playback it's like, oh my god, like huge spiders and everything. But what's that like though? Like on set for Van Helsing?
You know, yeah, when you go to set, it feels like it is, a money show.
Yeah.
If they've spent a lot of time and energy and money making it real and making it feel, feel like the world that they've created. So Set Deck will create this incredible space that's supposed to be outside, but it's inside the studio, and they'll have like the wind blowing and the dust and everything like that. I mean, when we shot in Slovakia, we didn't have to do too much. We were in these gorgeous castles.
Yeah.
Like, so Set Deck definitely made it glow. But I mean, you just have to shoot in those places and you've done all the work,
Yeah. No,
So
absolutely.
incredible and big, the scale, just poof.
Yeah. Okay. So you understand where I was coming from with that for sure, because it is big scale. And then, but
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about like the actual filming of it, because we live in a world now with fantastic like effects teams and
Oh yeah.
everything too, right? So that's where I
Yes.
was kind of getting with it. Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
Um,
Dark has a little bit more because there's been like creatures that
yeah.
I had to vanquish, and I didn't know what it really looked like until I saw the episode. I'm like, oh wow, it's a huge giant centipede that I'm throwing into a glowing triangle, the Tomb of Chaos. So just seeing it, like actually seeing it in on the screen is really cool. What they do with it post is
Tomb of
incredible.
Chaos sounds like, the high school 14, 15-year-olds that get into heavy metal. They form a band, and that's the name of their band, Tomb of
It is.
Chaos.
It's Tomb of Chaos. That's what the band was called. That's
Absolutely.
totally what the writers based it on.
Exactly. Heather,
How did
thank you
you
so
know,
much for
Peter?
coming. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
It was really nice to chat with you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So where can people so plug away? I mean, that Helsing final season on Sci-Fi,
Yep.
so they can check that out.
You can check that out. Charmed is airing right now, season 3. And then I've got Gabby Duran and the Unsittables on Disney coming in June.
Ooh, I know. Any
Little bit of a
Hallmark stuff coming out?
No Hallmark. I do have another cartoon coming out, but I can't really say too much about that. So there you go. A little voice and a little sci-fi coming your
And then, next time if you do want to come back, focus more on like the voice stuff, because I love that stuff. You know what I mean? Obviously, we're talking about Helsing, but the voice acting, I've interviewed so many amazing voice actors on my show: Gary Anthony Williams, Gray Delisle, like a lot, and it's just like they're so talented and quick, and like they can change the voices. It just drives me it's nuts.
That's what it's like talking to a voice person. They just change all over the place to different accents and everything. It's
It is
amazing.
crazy. And where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
Oh yeah, I'm on Instagram, Heather_Doerksen_. And then Facebook, I'm there. And I am, where else? Twitter as well. You can find me.
Amazing. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Heather Doerksen and PD Beats signing off.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.